Like if you get hit and you hear that crowd going, you be thinking like, man, I didn't even get hit that hard. What y'all talking about? I think that's going to help him going into a fight with Volkov, a guy who doesn't move as good as Cyril Gane.
Not
so like that's the good thing, is it because he doesn't move as good as Cyril Gane, Tai will be able to have more opportunity to get inside to land a big shot.
What's up, everybody? Laura Sanko here, joined as always by Din Thomas. Excited to be talking to you guys about UFC 293, heading down to Sydney, Australia, and we already broke down the main event. Now we're going to touch on the co-main event. Alexander Volkov, number 8, taking on number 6, Tai Tuivasa, Sydney's own. First time for Tai Tuivasa to be fighting in Sydney, his hometown, since his very first professional fight. I can only imagine if he gets it done, that place is gonna freaking explode.
The UFC, man, the UFC don't do nobody no favors. Like we always talk about, oh man, this guy's getting protected. This guy, rarely, that is a rare case where a guy gets a favor. And I'll tell you what, Tai Tuivasa is not getting a favor in this fight. Like you would think they're going back to this his first fight, his hometown. You would think they'd give him a heavyweight that will stand and bang and he could knock out. Yeah. But they are giving him a really stylistic, terrible matchup, I feel.
Tough.
A tough matchup. I'm just thinking, man, Volkov, like when he's on, he's great when he's on. This is a matter of him being on, and he's on more often than not. Like there's only a few times where he hasn't been on where you're just like, okay, that's, he doesn't look good here. But more often than not, he's on. And I'm just thinking like Tai Tuivasa got his hands full in this fight.
He does.
This was not a hook me up in my hometown.
It was not, and he absolutely does have his hands full. I guess we can start there. Tai's coming off of a couple of losses, right? And last time he came back with a vengeance and rattled off, like, I think it was 4 or 5 knockouts in a row after that. So I think I'm hopeful for a rebound just for his sake. I like Alexander Volkov as well, but just for his sake in his hometown and the moment, all that stuff. But tough loss to Pavlovich last time out. And then the fight against Gane, he was in it quite a bit longer, but clearly the body kicks, the teep kicks really got to him there. What do you think? And I'm worried about that because that's part of Volkov's specific skill set is those long range kicks. What do you feel like Tai's got to do to turn the tides in his favor against a tall, long, sophisticated striker like Volkov?
Well, I will say this is that he's never looked better than when he fought Cyril Gane. Like Tai looked really good when he fought Cyril Gane. He looked a lot more mature. He looked more patient. He wasn't taking unnecessary risk, and he still had the danger factor about him without necessarily having to take a lot of risk. I think that's going to help him going into a fight with Volkov, a guy who doesn't move as good as Cyril Gane. So like that's the good thing, is it because he doesn't move as good as Cyril Gane, Tai will be able to have more opportunity to get inside to land a big shot. So I think that's what he has to do. He has to avoid, obviously, the body kicks up the middle, try to get inside and land a big shot, which he can do. I mean, he does have a win over Stefan Struve, so he's fought that type of height before. So, and you would think that'd be a problem, but it is a problem, obviously. But I think that Tai, if he can just get past that first line of defense or offense that Volkov offers, if he can get past that first line, he's going to have a pretty good shot of getting off a big punch.
Yeah, I think one thing that maybe has been to his detriment in the past, which I think you could see he had put some work in on it in the Gane fight. It just ended up, the finish ended up coming from a different direction, is that in the past, he hasn't always been great about setting up his big shots. His big shots are his big shots, and he doesn't put a lot of framing around them in terms of jabbing into distance, filler punches to get to the overhand right, or whatever the case may be. This is a fight where you're going to have to, you can't enter the pocket quietly, and you can't enter the pocket with just one thing in mind, right?
Right. No, he's not going to be able to enter one thing in mind, but again, he's not dealing with a great mover. So like that's the good news for him. He's not, Volkov doesn't move all that great.
No, he's pretty slow.
Yeah, he's pretty slow and he's not very athletic. Gane was very athletic and fast on his feet and moved well side to side. And Tai kept up with him pretty well. He had his moments and hit him a few good times. So I'm not counting Tai out. No, by no means am I counting him out, but I just do think that he's got his hands full against a guy who, when he's on, man, he looks fantastically. He's got some, Volkov's got some great wins. Like when he beat up Walt Harris, I was like, man, I didn't expect that.
Yeah.
But Volkov, again, you kind of have to get him into a spot where he has to use defense because his legs ain't going to do it for him.
Who do you think has the better leg kicks? Because both of these guys, that's a weapon that both of them have used really effectively against other opponents. And I wonder if it comes down to who's going to start initiating, landing, and being more effective with that lead leg kick. Who do you give the advantage to there?
I think Tai Tuivasa has an underrated leg kick.
Yeah,
for sure. He's got an underrated leg kick. He might be the better leg kicker because I know how it looks, but he's probably the better athlete.
Oh yeah, no, I agree with that 100%. He's way faster.
Yeah, he's faster and he's the better athlete, so he's going to be able to move better. So if he can do his job and be patient, like you said, that building that framing and not just come out there and throw big punches and try to get the knockout right away. If he can be patient, there is a world in which he wins this fight.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it's actually pretty realistic that he wins this fight.
Oh, I actually agree with you. I don't, I'm not picking a winner here, but even if I was forced to, I would be on the fence about it, to be honest with you. It's a whoever gets their game going is going to win this fight. But in terms of like, does someone have a clear advantage? I really don't think so. I think this is a very 50-50 fight because of the power of Tai Tuivasa. And he's one of those guys in this division that it really does only take one punch to completely change the landscape, of the fight. Do you think either of them is going to look to grapple at all, tie up against the fence? Volkov is the much more likely to shoot for a takedown or go for a takedown, I should say. He doesn't shoot that often, but Tai's, I feel like, has started getting a little bit better about working along the fence and wearing guys out with his weight and his physicality.
Well, yeah, I think that's going to be a big portion of the fight, actually. Unless somebody gets knocked out early, I think a big portion of this fight ends up on the fence where they're just kind of, you say wearing on the other guy, I look at it as more like they're resting themselves. I think there's going to be a big portion. I mean, because there's nowhere to go, right? There's nowhere for them to go. They're not going to just stare at each other for a long time. So in those exchanges, they're going to clash and then just grab each other and be like, all right, let's rest for a minute.
Can you imagine if the mics picked that up? She's like, let's just take 30 seconds here.
Just give me a couple seconds.
Just
because there's no, they're not bantamweights where they can actually just stick and move and be on the outside and be playing, both of them playing on the outside. Heavyweights, they grab each other because there's nowhere to go and they don't want to get tired. They just say, you know what, let's just hold each other for a little bit and then break, and I think a good portion of the fight could be that. I can't imagine this fight being on the ground too much unless Tai wants to take him down, and I don't think he's going to want to.
Do you think that the Aussie crowd helps Tai, or potentially could it create a scenario where he's so anxious to have that knockout, have that moment, do that shoey, that he searches for it a little bit too much, a little bit too often?
No, I know the way that seems, but I think for a fighter like Tai, that helps him.
Yeah,
I think him searching for it actually might be beneficial, which is weird because I just said that he needs to be a little bit more patient. But I do still think that the crowd's going to give him a little extra energy, and he's still going to be patient in a way, but I think he's still going to have a little extra energy, and it'll help him find that shot that he needs.
Did you ever have a moment like that in a fight where the crowd like influenced how you felt about where you were in the fight, or helped you get out of a tough situation, or spurred you on to victory?
Kind of, like it's weird because in fights, like you definitely recognize what's going on in the crowd. And you hear, like, if you get hit and you hear that crowd going, you be thinking like, man, I didn't even get hit that hard. What y'all talking about? It definitely influences the way you perform, and fighters have to be careful with that. And sometimes you can't listen to the crowd because that can mess you up. But I don't. But a guy like Tai, I think it just helps him. I think it just
Yeah.
because he's not such. He doesn't come off as a cerebral fighter anyway. He
Yeah.
comes off as a very, energetic and gross motor skills, always at high peak. So he needs like that energy from the crowd is going to really amp him up.
Yeah.
And I think it'll help him a little bit. So
I remember I was fighting for an amateur title, and the girl got me in an arm bar, and I was doing the right things and starting to roll out, but she had it, and my arm was like hyperextended. But I remember that split moment where I was like, I really should tap here because she's got it. I can feel my elbow just popped. Like, if this goes any further, I'm gonna be in a bad place. But then the other part of my brain went, but my best friends are here, and my boyfriend is here, and my coach is here. Like, that would be I cannot do that. It is crazy how it was literally like, that must be an ego thing. I mean, it's kind of embarrassing to admit, but I was like, I can't let myself go out like that. I don't know. I just have to figure out a way to not let that happen. But it was 100%. I remember hearing my girlfriend, Rachel, screaming at the top of her lungs. And I'm like, not Rachel, no way.
so did you get out?
Yeah. And I won the fight.
I mean, think of that. Your life could be completely different now if you had just, just to come to the.
That's a crazy thought. That's actually a crazy thought, because you're right. Like, that one moment, I probably should have tapped, and I ended up winning the fight. I almost knocked her out. That was in the first round. I almost knocked her out in the third round, but it ended up being a decision. I won the decision. And then I went on and decided that after that, it was time to go to Invicta. And here we are, Dean. Here we are.
See there? Like, had you lost that fight, you might have just been like, you know what? MMA is not for me.
Yeah.
Crazy. And we'll be here now.
Crazy. It's crazy to look like that, because I think everybody has moments like that in their life. If I had just made one slight,
just one little pivot,
couple degrees this way, and
just one little tap,
and
you wouldn't be here today. You should be thanking that girl.
I should. She's nice too. She's tallest atom weight of it. 5'7" atom weight. 5'7", 105 pounds.
Jesus.
Yeah, she's
what was her name?
Nadia Nixon. Thank you, Nadia Nixon.
And right now she's probably working at the post office thinking, if I had just got that arm bar, I would be commentating for the UFC on the pay-per-view show.
Yeah, I don't know what she's doing. I don't know what she's doing now. I should look that up. But yeah, it is crazy to think about the little decisions we make in life and how different they can change for us. But that's cool. Do you have a moment?
So Nadia, I just want to say, Nadia, thank you for all that you've done for MMA. And if you want a one-on-one hat, I see if the Lord can hook you up. You know what I'm saying? We might get you a little hat for your contribution to MMA.
She's a super smart lady, so I have no doubt she's probably got some like high power white collar job at this point in her life. But do you have a moment like that in your life where you can, in your fight career, where you can look back and think, man, if I had done this one thing differently?
Well, I think mine is the exact opposite. And I always bring this back to my BJ Penn fight. And I think that if I had won that fight, I would have probably went on to become champion. And then I would have been one of them forgotten champions now. So I think that the fact that I lost actually worked the opposite for me. Did it force me into doing other things? Yeah. I mean, I still had a fight career afterwards, but I realized that, there was more to life.
Exactly.
Life which beyond, is why I'm here now.
Yeah. Life beyond MMA. And it's incredibly important for fighters to think about. And think about all the people that would not have had your coaching influence. Maybe you would have just been like, oh, I'm done with this sport. I'm going to go, I don't know. I'm going to go start OnlyFans.
I'd have ended up like Sean Shirk or somebody. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. Who knows what he's doing now, but I would have been like, I'd have probably ended up having a good little career for the meantime, and then would have faded away. And then I'd have been teaching high school math right now.
Well, thank you, BJ Penn. Thank you for beating Dean Thomas.
Thank you. And thank you, BJ, for knocking me out.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you.
I appreciate that, BJ.
Well, I appreciate you, and I appreciate your time, and I'm excited to watch these fights this weekend. And text me throughout the night and let me know how I'm doing. Okay.
Yeah. I'm going to text you throughout the night. And then also I'm going to obviously give you some words of encouragement prior to the event. So you go in there sharp.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much, Dean. We'll see you in Sydney, guys.